Welcome to the Fold Mysteries, where we seek to discover everything that lies between the folds of reality. And as you can tell, I am on the move for no other reason than running errands. So Abe so graciously is going to step in and take control, at least until I can get home. So just glad to have you on the show and able to step in and help out because today's been chaos. Chaos. I can't hear you. You're muted.
All right. Yeah, there we go. Happy to do it. Happy to step in for you while you get things wrapped up and speed your way back to where you need to be. Yes, it's been one heck of a week. I tell you what.
Yeah. So how's your week been?
Well, last week when we had that awesome guest, Joel Sturgis, on the show, I was actually out in the field at a location where I had to switch out an SD card and put in new batteries because the place hasn't been touched for a while. So I was out there and got that all taken care of. And I took out the SD card because it became full while I was there. I put it in my pocket. I can't find the SD card. And the SD card, the tree camera is faced on this possible TP formation. And I say possible because we really can't link these formations, alleged formations, with Bigfoot yet. But it takes something with two hands to form these, in my opinion. And the last time I was there was around Mother's Day weekend. And I put some treats and stuff like strawberry shortcake, Swiss rolls or something like that on there, on some trees and a bag of apples and stuff. And so I'm back there. I can't find the bag of apples. Lo and behold, the bag of apples, all the apples were gone. And the bag that it was in was luckily, thankfully, blocked up against some down foliage, some down trees and stuff, to where I was able to take that out. Long story short, put the new SD card in there, focus everything back up, put a peanut butter salted nut roll, those are really bomb, on the formation in front of the tree camera. And we'll just see what happens. But I'm kicking myself because I don't know where the heck the SD card is that I took out, that I put in around Mother's Day weekend. So there is that. And so it was a great week, and we had a great guest last week, who's doing some pretty big things, it sounds like. And as a matter of fact, he is starting up his own show here. And actually, this Sunday is going to be his first show that he is starting up. And, I hear he's got a pretty fantastic guest lined up for this coming Sunday. Do you know who it is by any chance?
I wonder. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited because he flipped the script on me last week. He started to interview me, and I was like, I realized what he was doing. I was like, hold up, I gotta reel this back in. But he's a great interviewer. I know he's gonna pull out some juicy stuff from me. So it's gonna be a good show. So I'm excited. And, I'm really looking forward to tell a little bit about my story of my life and things that I've done and went through. So I'm really excited. And it seems like he's going to really lean more towards the paranormal stuff, which I don't get to talk about a lot. So that'll be kind of fun and interesting.
Yes. And you have had a lot of happen to you.
Yeah.
And so for those who want to see Gwendolyn here, the radio show is After Hours AM. You can find that. If you Google it, you should be able to find that. I know it's on Spreaker, and you can also find it on Facebook as well, for sure. And I think it is here on the YouTube network as well. So it is also on iHeart and a lot of other different foundations and platforms too.
Yeah, I should post the link in the Facebook page for if everybody wants to kind of use that to kick over there to do that. But speaking of great guests, we have an amazing guest for this evening. And if you want, I can go ahead and read the bio, but I want to welcome to the stage Nathan Bronis. So welcome. And see, I'm going to move you up here so you're middle of the screen. So Nathan Bronis is a prominent field investigator and analyst within the Sasquatch research community. He is recognized for his field research efforts and technical expertise in data collection. He is a BFR investigator and a veteran member of the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, the oldest and largest scientific research body dedicated to investigating Sasquatch encounters and physical evidence. He is also an expedition leader and organizes and leads official BFRO sanctioned expeditions, specifically focusing on Sasquatch high activity zones throughout Washington. He is also a field research analyst and is characterized as the Sasquatch field research analyst, utilizing methods such as long-term remote audio collection, motion-activated thermal camera systems, and seasonal report tracking to analyze Sasquatch behavior patterns. He is also a documentary contributor. His work has been featured on several media projects, such as Small Town Monsters, Beyond the Trail video series, and also is a contributor to the Study Sasquatch YouTube channel. And you also have your own YouTube channel, which we linked in the description. So if anybody wants to finish watching this, they can hop on that. It's just a link, so you just click it, take you right over to his YouTube. So make sure to get on there and subscribe.
Absolutely. With this with Nathan, and I tell you guys the story, and I relive it all the time because it was back in Nathan. It had been what 2013 when we were in Michigan at the Sasquatch Discovery Days there, and what was it? Something Wood, Michigan. At any rate, we're sitting around. This guy, I was 16 or 19 at that time. And we're sitting around the campfire, and we're having in-depth conversations with Dr. Meldrum at this time. And the conversation is so deep that we're talking about ungulates and how ungulates and the gut biome, as far as what the digestive tract and what different things Bigfoot can process digestively wise compared to non-ungulates, and if they have different enzymes and stuff like that to break this stuff down. So right then and there, this young man here, he blew my mind at such a young age, and it's just such a treat to have him on the Fold Mystery here as a guest. So, Nathan, I'd like to also welcome you to the Fold Mystery. I got goosebumps, man.
That's awesome. I hate to break in, but I'm going to tell everybody that I'm actually going to be working. I'm my co-assistant here. She's going to be working for me in the background, adding comments and things like that. But I'm going to jump off stage and I'm going to listen in. And I'm going to hop in whenever, I can say anything. But I'm going to drive home quick so I can get home and join the show properly.
Oh, absolutely. You're in good hands here. We're going to start from the beginning. We'll see you in a short while.
All right. Sounds good.
Oh, my gosh. Hi, buddy. Nathan, I mean, echoes West Branch, Michigan. That's where it was.
Yes.
West Branch, Michigan, Bigfoot Discovery Days. When did your interest with Bigfoot? Well, how did all this Bigfoot phenomenon get started with you? Was it a TV show? Was it a movie? Did you have an encounter at a young age?
I would say that most of my interest came from just strange events that happened on our property when I was a kid, and kind of ignored a lot of that until eventually ended up seeing one in the summer of 2009. And then from there, I went through about a year of complete terror and fear of the outdoors to one day I just happened upon some primate documentaries on Animal Planet and Discovery. And it just all of a sudden hits you after you've had an experience like that, and you just wall off from everything that you previously embraced. And used to be outdoors all the time, hunting, fishing, camping, you name it. And then you go through an experience like this and you just kind of wall off. You close, the doors are locked, you don't go outside, at night is not an option. And then seeing a documentary one day on primates, just clicking through a Dish Network or whatever, and it just I paused and I'm watching this, and it all of a sudden you realize, oh, these are things out there doing what they do, and I was just a person in wrong place, wrong time, or right place, right time, depending on how I want to look at it now. And that is what drew me into the topic, was getting sucked in from the biology and ecology side. It kind of normalized and turned something from something monstrous to something mysterious, and it drew me in from there.
That's what kind of got me interested in all this too. Was it was the gorillas at the zoo we have here in St. Paul, Minnesota. I have never seen a Bigfoot in the 26 years of doing this, but I've had enough evidence, Class B stuff, to make me say what else could it have been there at that time doing just that, because it makes no sense for a Homo sapien to do something like that. One of the things that really struck me as you is that, since it started out with primates, did you look into the different species of primates, great apes, I guess, more so than the monkeys, and their characteristics and how their behaviors are?
Yeah, actually, in two different directions. It took me down what modern primatology and study there in the extant apes, obviously from orangutans to chimps, bonobos, gorillas, even down into the lower stuff such as gibbons. But it also took me way further down into physical anthropology. So, like the study of what many would classify as ancient man and hominids previous to that, that existed throughout different sections of like Europe, Asia, and then all over. And then looking into the genetics of it, starting to trace back and look at the family tree, if you will, like how different things moved into different areas, took over this region and crowded out this population, pushed in a new population, and then interbred. And then you get this whole bush effect where you just have this cross species genetic swapping going on, and trying to trace all that. So it basically, every aspect you can imagine, from primatology, from the bottom all the way with lemurs, all the way going up into physical anthropology, and then eventually studying a little bit into human psychology, right? Like, you want to know where does the mind really start with something like in the monkeys, and where is the mind today with modern man, and just trying to get the breadth of that scale in your mind. So modern psychology, and that's helped with reports and a number of things. But yeah, basically all of it.
I know, and at such a young age, man, I knew that you were this sponge that was so dried, and now I'm looking at this sponge that's just so filled with knowledge and everything like that. It's so awesome. Oh man, and to have that education as primatology, the physical anthropology, even a little bit of psychology. Oh my gosh, dude, it's great. I mean, a lot of people just jump into this thinking that Bigfoot, well, I guess you could say, scientifically speaking, it is a great ape. It is a primate. Even us Homo sapiens are classified as that. But they think that a lot of times that this is just a dumb ape. But in your field of research, and with your research into physical anthropology, that it's something that's above and beyond than just a big primate, just a big dumb great ape, so to speak.
Yeah. So where I would put classification in alignment here, just so to paint a picture of everything, is apes don't really have language as we would define it. They don't really have culture or art. They don't have expressions. They don't have metaphor, or something that's illustrative. They don't seem to have a whole lot of the ability to take something abstract and convey it in a group setting, and then that hands down as storytelling. Whereas creatures like humans specifically, that have a complex, deep language, we have the ability to communicate a lot of that. And as far as like gorillas, chimps, and bonobos, they don't really have a whole lot. They have the base ability. If you look at their some of the successes in teaching sign language, like in Coco the gorilla, and a number of bonobos have been taught things like that. But these definitely are a tier higher than that. I would dare put it near human intelligence. Like, if I'm to arbitrarily just give you the finger scale, right? It would be, if humans are this and chimps are here, these things are right there. Like, if I were to guess based on my interactions over the years, seeing the aware of like planning, like standing back and looking at an event and looking at, oh, this thing almost had a military mindset. It came in from the high ground. It only approached when the lights were out. And then the moment a light came out, it retreated uphill. Then it dove the ridge and it went down and it circled back 2 days later, same routine. Very tactical, very methodical, risk averse. Just some near human intelligence type stuff. And then the sound, the progressively getting louder with testing sounds, almost test your awareness. That's very unusual. That's a higher level of thought and perception. Like, it understands you have hearing and that it wants to know how well you're paying attention so it can make its decisions about how close to get. Like, there's a lot going on. So,
wow, yes, you're absolutely right. Oh my gosh, you're giving me goosebumps, bro. And that's just the thing. A lot of people, when they're out in the field, they would say, "Oh, I'm observant," but they're not observant, and they don't know if they're being tested or not. And here you and the guys are out there, and you guys are keeping mental notes of this sound, and if it happens again, and if it's a little louder, or if it's in a different location, and if it's farther away, and you're connecting the dots with this being, this creature.
well, we're
It's
considering
intelligence.
we're trying not to take, because there is the aspect that you could anthropomorphize your target species or subject, and you can do that. Yeah, we try to come up with a range of theories and not come to a decision, but we do consistently notice that the decisions that seem to be made by whatever is engaging with us on the regular in the settings that we're in isn't making a whole lot of mistakes. They're not going, whoops, we made the wrong call and we're just in front of you now and we're totally visible. No, every time that they are in a situation to make a mistake, they still have dang it, how did they make a mistake here, but there was still a plan B to rely on? Like, that's really weird. Like, how does it always have a plan B, it seemed like? One example would be, we had a group of guys out, including myself, and we were screaming at each other. We had one guy out on the road, and we were uphill, and we had a dummy camp, and we had some people in the dummy camp being quiet. And occasionally, but once every 30, 40 minutes, they would interject a random sound. But there's the sound coming from here. Here's the camp, sound coming from here. But you couldn't track anything because there's just all this sound occurring. And the people were moving out on the road back and forth across these two locations. This thing got confused because it basically heard these two groups of people cussing at each other and yelling at each other. Very unusual human behavior. It wasn't just people, singing Luke Bryan around a campfire. It was people agitated. So it was unusual. So we drew this thing apparently up because our group, which broke off and fell silent while the other two kept making noises, we dropped into a saddle after we made some noises right on where this saddle peaks up, and then the camp's down here and the road's over here. We dropped in and sat down and went totally blackout, no lights, and we sat there for about 40 minutes. And something came up the bottom of the saddle, but on the far side, coming up behind the thickest part of this draw in the valley, and we could hear it crashing all the way up. And I don't mean push and brush a little bit. I mean crashing, like a vehicle crashing big. And it came up, but it conveniently took the path to get there that had the most visible obstacle from the camp possible. So as if you could not see into that area from the camp. And it stopped right where the timber got thin. It stopped. So we couldn't even see it. No one from the camp could see it. We have our thermals. We're posted up and listening to this thing. And we finally have to make a decision about what we're going to do. And I said, well, I told my buddy Chris, I said, Chris, you go out to the road and cut back to the camp and try to create a distraction, maybe cut in front of this thing. And that might force it back toward me, right? And if it forces it past me, it should, if it follows the draw it took to get up, it should drop right out in front of me. I should get a good visible shot on it with thermal. And he kind of goes to do that. And then before he even gets all the way back to the camp, this thing kind of picks up that there was people where there weren't supposed to be people. And it whirls around, drops into the ravine to the very steepest part in the bottom. And it's more of a ditch. It's not a ravine there. It drops eventually into a ravine. But it drops into the ditch and apparently got real low and crept out. Nearly quiet. You could just hear it dragging itself over the sword ferns. But it anticipated three things. It anticipated visibility from the camp, visibility from the high ground, and then had an exit strategy that cut off both fields of view no matter what decision was being made. And it probably knew all this before it even approached in the first place.
Right. Yeah. Or else it probably wouldn't got itself in that situation.
Yeah, it put itself in like in a military maneuver. You don't put yourself in a position you can't get out of. You go in with A, B, and C plans for your entry, and then you have A, B, and C for getting out. And this thing definitely seemed to be doing that. And we see it time and time again. So with the repeatability of that, we notice that seems to be a pattern. We're trying not to draw too many distinctions in this, but when you see a pattern over and over, it's hard to ignore.
Yeah, and that's how science works. Is that if there's a pattern that's repetitive, there it is. I mean, that's the data collection right there.
Yep.
Holy smokes! So it was theorized that these things had an intelligence of about a 5-year-old child. I think that right there definitely surpasses about a 5 or even a 12-year-old. To be honest with you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Holy smokes!
Now that being said, they definitely get the curiosity break in of like a 17-year-old. They definitely there's definitely that point where it's like, oh man, I heard this noise. What's going on? What's that smell?
I was actually going to ask you, as far as like the level of intelligence, do you think that these things are more intelligent than humans, or do you think that they are, like you said, on a scale of like a younger adult type mentality? But they're definitely clearly smarter than just an animal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This would drastically, in my opinion, based on all I've experienced, their intelligence vastly outpaces like bear, deer, cougar. They have some of the same predatory instincts and obviously key features of detection that other animals have. Like the hyper awareness thing, like picking up on bird calls, like a distant robin alarm call of a human coming down a trail half a mile away, echoing down into the ravine. They probably key in on that the same way you hear your Arlo security camera go ding, ding, ding. Someone's at the door. So they're keyed in on that, right? Because all the other animals basically are like it's like throwing a stone into a pond. You throw the stone in and the ripples go out. And eventually, if you're paying attention, you can trace those ripples to back where they come from. Well, sound ripples out. The bird calls ripple out. The frogs stop croaking when you get too close. All of that has play. They probably pick up on that. But to answer about intelligence, is they probably have all of the sensory perception capabilities, probably with the exception of smell being terribly enhanced. Maybe 2.5 times better than a human, probably not much more, just knowing primates and length of snout. They probably have the high perception and detection range of other animals, but as far as intelligence, I would put them around a teenager. And at least in the curiosity, the play, the leverage, the drive, curiosity, all the emotional plays that it seems like of someone who's about 16 or 17, like you can upset these things. You can camp where you are not supposed to be camped, and that can have a reaction. You can wood knock somewhere and maybe trick one for a little bit, and get a reply, but then it's all over 2 days later after they've come in, checked you out, realized there's no other Sasquatches around, and you're just playing the game. And they leave. But as far as like the forethought, planning, long-term goals, I think that kind of thing is more adult human, near adult human capability. They seem to understand that different seasons and elevations and things, where there's going to be resources, where there's not going to be resources, and they are visual scanners. Many reports you see the animal was out at the edge of a field line or in the edge of the agriculture. It was scanning, it was perceiving, it was taking its environment in, and made a mistake. But that's a planning thing. And that planning is something most adults do, most teenagers don't. So
Yeah.
think of how many times the gas gauge got ran down on the loaned out truck. Yeah. So yeah, they're a little bit different. So I would say as far as planning, forethought, and caution, they're very, very human, near human intelligence. And then the place that they seem weak and or prone to making mistakes would be playing on their curiosity, upset, and potentially resource leverage, like what they need at certain times of the year. That'd be my guess. Just based on reports, I've looked at I've researched over several hundred reports personally, investigated and talked with witnesses, drove out, heard their stories, and that's just my general take at this point.
Right on, man. You brought up a lot of interesting notes there on her question as far as intelligence goes, and the curiosity of a teenager, but the intelligence, like you said, is almost military intelligence when they're putting themselves in that situation. You also mentioned how it dropped down into the ravine and got itself out of there. Now, it didn't just like vanish or disappear or go through a portal or dimension, did it?
No, it did not. It did a very, very human thing.
Yeah, a very human thing.
Natural. It did a very natural thing. So yeah, it's they see these things, in our opinion, based on all the data we've looked at, and we've looked at a ton.
Yeah.
I mean, I have talked to everybody. I have talked all the way from tinfoil hat at the bottom to a physical anthropologist. Yeah, don't put it all out. But yeah, I've talked to everywhere in between, and here's where I sit with it. After all of the work I've done, I've investigated reports where people claim portals, orbs, telepathy, whatever. I've claimed from there all the way up to it was an oversized gorilla. I've never seen anything like it. This must be Gigantopithecus. And then in the middle, you have hey, these things are a near human hominid. Looks so human, I couldn't pull the trigger. This is destroyed hunting and camping for me. I've taken over 15 black bear in my life. I've taken lots of deer. I know animals. I've been around zoos. I've seen animals. I've seen people. Unfortunately, and they'll laugh and say, unfortunately. And they will say this was something very near human.
Yeah.
Very near human.
Yep.
And I'm not going to make a call on what that exactly means, but I don't think we're dealing with traditional Ponchidae. I think we're dealing with something in the hominid Paranthropus vein would be my guess.
Totally agree with you there. And I think we got a couple questions from Ezzy. There was that one, and like one of her questions are, what are your theories? And then the other one is like, where do you think they came from?
Oh yeah, I would be very keen to subscribe to the idea that these things came over from Eurasia or where they wrap her up into China and then get up into like Siberia, the Caucasus. These things probably, like if you want to pin down where exactly they came from, they probably came from where we see a lot of the other hominids arising from, and specifically like the foothills of the Himalayas where the Denisovans and stuff were interacting with other archaic things, because we know that they took on huge portions of their genome that were extremely archaic, and we still don't know where that fits. We don't know hardly any of the fossil record. That's something we have to keep in mind. I think we know something like, some scientists say between 3 and 7% of the fossil record. And so there are entire veins of hominids in trails of different hominids we don't even know is out there. So who's to say? But if you were to ask me from in 2026, with what we know right now, where does this thing come from? It probably comes from the foothills of the Caucasus, where they dump out, right where the that whole area wraps up out of Asia into Siberia, and then you have the other, Middle East and area slamming up into there. Right in that, there's a convergence somewhere in there, and that's where a lot of hominids kind of started splitting, intermingling, and swapping genetics. But somewhere in there, and then it seemingly became high elevation and cold weather adapted, moved up through Siberia and Russia, crossing the land bridge and ice bridge into Southeast Alaska, and became adapted for obviously the boreal forest, and then down into the northwestern coastal forest, and then further down from there into the southeast, southwest, and surviving in these zones anywhere the food was capable and the resources were plentiful.
And you're absolutely right. I totally agree with you there. And everything you said, I mean, we're eye to eye. Even as it being some type of a homogeneous, I definitely strongly feel that is on the homogeneous. Where that is exactly is still yet to be determined. But a lot of people thinking that it's a primate or an arboreal species, I don't think that could be farther from the truth, to be honest with you. And I say that because a lot of our arboreal species, they have the divergent big toe to help grasp onto limbs, and also monkeys have tails. So we know it's not a monkey. There's no tail association with it.
Yeah, we can pretty easily exclude New World and Old World the monkey classification, as well as lemurs and other things like that. We're definitely the minimum end of the spectrum on the bandwidth that is primates. The minimum is great ape, the minimum. Right. And what we see of the morphology of the foot, the hand, the skull, how much prognathism, dentition is forward versus forehead recession into conical, and how much is cranial, how much is muscularity. Well, a good share of the reports seem to indicate that they were dealing with something with definitely a little bit more cranial volume than a gorilla, or what they hypothetically suggest for Gigantopithecus blacki. And it definitely puts it squarely in the, like I said, the reason I advocate so strongly for looking at Paranthropus or somewhere near there, Paranthropus adjacent, I guess you could say, is it has a little bit higher cranial CC volume, a little bit of a frontal lobe, not too much, still has that recession to the forehead, heavy brow ridge, cheekbones, slightly reduced prognathism in the face. And then the overall body structure, it seems that these things had more of the robust long limbs and, but the upright walking foot design for the most part. So it's somewhere closer to that than anywhere else that we could place as far as I can consider. And somewhere around there.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I can't wait to find out, because I know as far as all of the hominids, there are still new discoveries when it comes to hominology being discovered, which is always setting something, predating something that was actually thought to be, the origin or something like that. This I love this. This is just such a fascinating thing, and it's very cool to talk to somebody that shares the same passion on the same level.
What's really exciting is that they've recently figured out how to do sedimentary eDNA. Sedimentary eDNA. So they can go into a cave system or a permafrost type situation or whatever, anywhere that there is a relatively stable temperature or acidity level, certain huge chunks of the genome can be preserved within sediment or permafrost, or even in bone material, assuming it doesn't undergo some massive UV degradation or something to break down the mitochondrial DNA within within the cell or in the core of the bone, the marrow section. And they can extract DNA now from very dry, very old bones in sediment, or even just the sediment itself. They can get genomes out of it, at least partial, if not full genomes.
Dude, I'm geeking out. That's cool.
And the other cool thing is not only that, but now we don't have to use manual, lab labor to do it. We don't have to get get six students in here on their internship and have them piece by piece sift code. Now we got an AI that can just run it like
right.
Go through billions and millions of lines. So you can do now. We can DNA is about to rapidly go through a massive explosion in. We used to see DNA research moving like this.
Yeah, and very slow.
And now it's going. and so our abilities are increasing, and as that happens, our reach and our knowledge of speciation is going to rapidly increase. So we're about to enter a very interesting era of understanding speciation, I think, in different areas, at what times, what they ate, what bacteria were permeating the gut. All kinds of things are coming that we can't even think of right now.
Man, that's so exciting. You're right. Wow. So that's great. Let's move into some of the equipment that you're utilizing, man. I know you talked about some of your trues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When you guys are out in the field, first off, I mean, did you guys? So you also work with the OP Olympics project. You're with the BFRO and Sasquatch Study, and you got a lot of friends that in the PNW, obviously, that you go out with. Let's tell us about some of the equipment that you guys utilize while you're on these. How many different areas are you guys keeping an eye on?
Well, me personally, so I'm kind of the statistics, data report, elevation, ecology nut. That's kind of my role. I'm also I'm kind of like one of the primary tech guys. So my job, what I do is I get out in the field a lot and I take down a lot of information. I'm looking at report trends. I'm looking for clusters. I'm looking for corridors, resource concentration, caloric density per square mile. I'm looking for high animal density in locations consolidating on calories at certain times, or certain resources when they would be important to an omnivore versus a herbivore or an insectivore. I'm looking at all of these things, trying to find consolidations and trends. And then I'm also looking at the report data. Like, what does the report data show? Like, hey, every May at 2,200 feet in this valley pathway, there's bloop, 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 reports. And how much of that I have to discern is there are Sasquatches up there a lot, or was it a long, hard winter and people in early May, there's a little bit of sunshine, so everybody goes out camping and therefore generates reports, right? It takes a human and a Sasquatch to have a report.
Yeah.
So it's trying to discern, break down, extract, consolidate, and map that information, and then generate predictability models, looking for ways to predict they're going to be here at this time around this resource. At least that's what the pattern is showing, and then to really dial in on that. And that's what I do. And then the technology side, Ian Kirk Brandenburg, a friend of mine from the BFRO. So I work within the BFRO, consultant. I do expeditions. I am also a facilitator regarding technology for the Northwestern chapters. I kind of help them get these drones, this thermal imaging is the best, this audio recording setup is really good, this is how you do long duration audio spectrogram work, so spectrographic analysis. This is how you, like, basically I just kind of set people up for success with tools within the BFRO. And I have loose association with a number of members, obviously, because people are interested from the OP as well as the BFRO in the same things. I'm loosely associated with some members within the Olympic Project, two of which work closely with us in our group, Study Sasquatch on YouTube. That'd be Chris Spencer and Rebecca Spencer. So,
nice.
Yeah.
So you get all this data, and you basically, because see, that's been my problem, is that I've been on the heels of Sasquatch. I want to get on their toes. I've been where they've been, but I want to be where they're going. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what you're doing here. My hat's off to you on that.
Yeah, it's just the biggest thing that I'm seeing is build a model around black bears, just so you get the hands-on feel of like, okay, mammals are moving around resources, so you get a handle on what that looks like. And then from there, just go pull out of all the reports in the BFRO or the Bigfoot Mapping Project or the ECBRO or whatever, GCBRO, NAWC, TVRC, pull whatever you can, consolidate it, and then try to pull the most nuts and bolts realistic reports out of that you truly think are legitimate, that you're not iffy on, and plot those. And it sounds tacky as heck, but just color code all the pins a different color for the months, and just try to look for commonalities. Like where do a bunch of yellow pins cluster up? Where do a bunch of green pins cluster up? And kind of go from there. Look at the month commonalities. Look at what resource. Oh, there's a fish hatchery there. It's right next to a large agricultural district, but there's a huge cut of green belt going through there with that river system. Oh, they dumped salmon in there in July. All the reports clustering on the edge of agriculture in July. Is that a coincidence? Probably not. And it seems like that. So that's kind of just like a little footnote on how to get started with that kind of thing.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I'm sure everybody watching this, all the millions of viewers in the future will be watching that too. We'll be thankful for you. Well, welcome back, Gwendolyn.
Thank you. It was quite the task. For some reason, my camera wasn't working, so it took me a minute, but I am back.
Yay!
So yeah, you already covered this question, but somebody said, would you rank their intelligence level above or below a dolphin? And you were talking earlier about how basically the curiosity of a teenager, more intelligent than a human.
Well, I wouldn't say more intelligent than a human. I would say very similar to human in the sense like just like an adult. We plan, we pay our bills, we try not to overdraw our accounts. You know, we think about, do I have enough food to make it through the week before I go on vacation, and that I don't have enough in there to rot, right? That kind of thing. Take care of the animals, make sure they have enough for the next 7 days when I go to Disney World or whatever. Well, these things seem to have a level of planning, forethought. Like they know when a resource is going to tap out and when a new resource is coming in and when they got to be there. And under what pretenses regarding, human pressure. Like, for instance, I could just go anywhere up in the Cascades in September when the huckleberries are on, August, September. There's food everywhere. But where can I go to not run into all the elk hunters and all the bear hunters and people out going to be mad? Where are the roads most active? Where do I hear the most motor sound at that time of year? There is a level of understanding there that is beyond, what a casual 14-year-old is thinking like,
Right.
They're like I said, they'll run their dad's truck gas gauge to absolute E and go, "Hey, Dad, I need you to pick me up." The planning kind of stops about a mile away in 15 minutes from wherever they are, right? Just legitimately, as someone who was a teenager once.
I was going to say, it sounds like that you're speaking from experience there.
Yeah.
And these things, there's a level of forethought, planning, preparedness, awareness. Like, that's a one road valley up there. There's only one way humans can get in. If we hang out on the backside, we can stay in there, avoid all human pressure, all pickers, all hunters. No one's going to hike past 3 miles because they know if they kill something back there, they have to hike that whole elk out. There seems to be an awareness level with them that's just much higher than a young person, very young person, teenager.
Yeah, awesome.
There's a thought process.
Yeah. So,
and they always have a backup plan. That's the other thing. There is always a way for them to get out without getting caught. Almost always. And that's not a teenager mindset either. So,
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you compare that more to like what you were talking about, the predatory type of sense?
When I was bringing up predators earlier, I was speaking more on perception, like being able to pick up on, like, if you're in your living room and in the bedroom you hear, "Help me," you're like, "That's not me. That's not my kids. That's not my husband. Who is that?" You know, they have a level of perceiving things that are off in a way that many animals have. Like bears, when they hear when a bear hears a robin alarm call and then hears a grouse take off maybe 250 yards away, that bear's all of a sudden going to be now on high alert because it knows what that means. Something's coming, something's disturbing other animals, and who knows what that is. If it's disturbing that kind of animal, it's going to disturb me, so I'm out. And this explains why when people go out in the woods, 99% of the time you don't see anything, but then you walk back later and there's cougar tracks in your tracks. There's deer tracks right cutting through the edge of camp. And, you know, you only went home to grab AA batteries and came back, and that happened all while you were gone. It's that kind of thing. They have perception that we don't, and I think these things are right up there with it, more so in some ways than other animals, and then definitely on par with other animals, at least on the ability to perceive what's happening in the environment. So
sounds like you got cougars tracking you too. Call dang cougars. Anyway.
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time. I've had 2 this spring get real close, and last fall I walked up on one at about 22 yards.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
I was talking about the ones on 2 legs.
Oh no! I managed to stay clear of those for the most part.
Oh my gosh!
Let's say it this way: I don't go to the same watering holes.
There you go. You don't go to the American Legion or the BFW, huh? Okay.
Yep. No.
That's great.
Weirdly, I just run into the one, and
that's all it took, man.
No, that's all it took.
One.
The right
Good
one.
answer. No. Equipment. Great answer. Great equipment, man. I know you guys implement a lot of equipment while you're all in your research areas and stuff like that. Could you tell us about some of the audio that you're doing, the motions activated thermal cameras, the trues, all the fun stuff that you guys get to implement?
Yeah. So I'll start with audio. So for audio, we all run digital audio recorders, and we get one where you can clip right on your backpack strap like this, and you can angle them around. So this is an Olympus LS7. This has timer record function, high quality preamps, very similar to the Sony. Bus power, can do whatever with it. You get 20 hours on 2 AAAs. And we use those. Those are our primary defense for picking up what's happening around us as we're hiking or doing whatever. From there, we use long duration audio recorders. And these are on a timer. We custom make them. They're bus powered. We actually have to build bus power paths and external microphone setups that are weatherproof and house everything. We take these out to the field and we ditch them for 40 days. They turn on every night, record for 10 hours, and then shut down and repeat that for 40 days, all off this battery pack. And then we go through that data to try to pick up what is acoustically going on in that environment, trying to pick up trace, like wood knocks or howls, trying to see, okay, this week in May, we have 2 wood knocks and a weird vocal that we can't place. And then the rest of May is pretty quiet. And we get back to, I don't know, around August, and we get the same pattern. It's that kind of data collection over time. You do spreadsheets and consolidated information mapping, direction of sound, an adult, a young one, an old one, what kind of voice are you hearing? It starts to paint a picture of what's happening. And you start learning what the other animals sound like and what is and isn't a Sasquatch, which is a huge problem in our community.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's I'll talk to people and I will say, they'll hear stuff and they'll be like, yeah, I was a Sasquatch. I'm like, well, have you compared it to your internal library of other known sounds? I don't have a library of known sounds. And I'm like, oh no, that's terrifying.
Baseball.
That's true. So you mentioned, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was going to say the long duration audio recorders, those are heavily relied upon. We use the SM4, SM4 Mini. Both of those are by Wildlife Acoustics. We build those our own custom rigs using Kimbrough mics, and he makes a great omnidirectional microphone. And we use the Olympus 720 DM audio recorder with timer function. We show how to build those, make them, use them, and then they're rigged to a D-cell battery power pack. And so that's audio. Did you have any questions about audio further than that?
Yeah, actually, you mentioned that you start these recordings at night. So that makes me wonder if you feel like that Bigfoot are more nocturnal, because I know that it also can depend on location, if I'm not mistaken. So in your area, they tend to be more nocturnal. And then my other question would be, have you thought to stagger 2 different recorders, one for day recordings and one for night?
Yes, that is a great idea, and we have thought about doing that. We've actually, in some situations, done that, where we will run the SM4 Mini 24/7, and then we'll run just a few hundred yards away. We'll run the custom-built rig just at night. So we're getting kind of double and trying to make them time out the same, but essentially, so we're getting a voice print of the area, a understanding of what it's like during the day and what it's like during the night. So we do that. Overwhelmingly, the data is suggesting that they are mostly nocturnal, and that is likely to be an avoidance tactic that goes as far back as when they were over in the Caucasus of human beings, avoiding, their yin to our yang, right? We're highly social, diurnal creatures that destroy our environment to make it comfortable for us. They are highly antisocial, they don't modify the things, their environment. Their body is plenty destructive enough to do what they need to do to get by. And they live in very small social groups, and they avoid changing environments. And humans are a competition on the landscape for all the same resources. So we have a natural phobia. We're socially phobic of one another. And so we think that the nocturnal behavior that is overwhelmingly present is mostly that adaptation to avoid hunters, campers, loggers, outdoors people, and also just get animals roosting. There's a number of other reasons they could be doing it. But from an evolutionary perspective, that would make sense if you're a large omnivore. If you can't negate the area, negate the time frame, and humans are dynamic. So,
I like how you said that.
And then secondly, if you look at the data, when you say it depends on area, you might be meaning like in different geographical sections. Like, over here in Minnesota, they might be active up to like 9:30 a.m. and pouring their coffee or whatever. But and then out in Washington, they might not be doing that at all. They might be just totally dead to the world by 7 a.m. But what I would say is the highest quality, if you're going to take like the gold standard of your report database and try to build a framework of true known behavior versus outlier behavior, the highest quality reports are illustrated that the highest amount of activity occurs between 10:30 p.m. and 3 a.m. That block seems to have the most motion activity, like road crossings, backyard events, things like that, when they're most confident. So, and that's how I would measure it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way to look at it. Yeah, for sure.
Did you anything else on that one?
Not that one. I'm very curious. I want to check out, because you said that there was a place you could go to see how you guys are building your LDRs, and I'm just curious where that is.
Yeah, so on our channel, Study Sasquatch, we publish a lot of information about how our construction is done, how they're like what parts to get, where to get them, source them, and roughly how it's done, and people can kind of bolt it together themselves and make them. I've also made them for people personally in the past and sent them to people and stuff. Done that, but yeah, basically the short version of it is, if you want to check out our videos, it's they're housed in a waterproof like dry box, spray painted camo, That's hung up in a tree. Inside of that is the recorder, put in the timer function, and that is wired to the 2 D-cell battery pack. And then the external microphones come out and are clipped out in the environment, blended into a stump, blended into some brush. You can't even see it. Then you bury the recorder's housing in moss or debris, and you just leave it. And they're relatively waterproof in those dry boxes after you silicone seal around the mics, and you let the recorder do the job. But yeah, we put all that out on our YouTube.
That's awesome. So, not to jump too far away from topic, but I guess the big question is that I'm sure everybody's curious about is, have you personally seen a Bigfoot?
Yes, twice.
Can you tell us about at least the longest sighting you had, the closest sighting you had, the most intense one, whatever it may be?
I'll keep it pretty brief, just because I have a habit. I will go on. And, if I tell you it'll be brief,
that's what makes a great guest.
Yeah, if I tell you it'll be brief, it'll be moderately long. That's how this is going to work. So in the summer of 2009, it was July 24th, 2009. I had made the decision all up to that, through that spring to that point, to teach myself how to deer hunt, because none of my family were hunters at all. And so, we had the Outdoor Channel and Guns and Ammo and all that stuff, and I wanted to learn how to do that. So I picked up the skill. I had some neighbors that were willing to teach me, show me the safety aspect and good, ungulate management, whitetail management for properties, overpopulation, predators, all this stuff. And so I started scouting and putting up tree stands and monitoring deer numbers, getting ready to put up trail cameras, all that stuff. And so I spent a huge portion of that spring and summer just walking out in the fields, looking for deer trails, looking for bedding areas, looking for rub routes, looking for feeding zones, looking for where they were coming to drink down at the marshes and the springs, and tracking all that. So that's how I had this encounter, this sighting. I was out casually scouting and moving around this environment, trying to get a handle on what the deer were doing. And one day, July 24th, late afternoon, I got the sun clipping in behind me, driving west on me, and I'm walking out and off of our property onto our neighbor's property. And our neighbor, I knew him and his son hunted that property, and I had permission to kind of be out there and walk around it. And this distant figure started weaving between trees. I could see it weaving between the trees, because out there, I don't know if you're familiar with. Yeah, are you in Minnesota?
Yeah. Well, okay, she's in Ohio. I'm in Minnesota. Yeah.
Okay, so you're still familiar with poplar, what young poplar looks like. It's about yay big around. It gets like up to 12 feet tall right after you clear cut. It's the first thing to come back.
Yep.
I could see a black figure just diving through the poplar like that. And because the white versus the black, and the sun is hitting the white, it's just super obvious. And I see this, and at this point, I'm probably, I want to tell you 100, 120 yards away, 130 yards away. I can't remember exactly what moment I remembered seeing this thing initially, but my brain's writing it off the whole time, because my brain's like, oh, that's my neighbor. My neighbor's out checking his tree stands or something, right? And I only caught a glimpse through this. So I get walking. I walk up to about 150 feet, and I realize there's something very wrong. There's something very wrong at about 150 feet, but your brain is still taking the square block and shoving it into the round hole, and it's not working, but your brain is still doing it.
Right.
That's him. Oh, that's not him. That's his son. Right. Because my neighbor, he was kind of a shorter, rounder guy. His son was big and broad and tall. So that's what my brain is doing, is it's taking this, and this fits. It has to be, because it does.
Right.
And I'm walking out, and then I finally get to about 120 feet, and I catch a moment where this thing cuts through a slightly larger gap and is pushing through the poplar like this. I thought I could see both arms, and then I realized it was one arm kind of sweeping and the other elbow hooking trees, and I'm like trying to figure out what's going on. And it, one point, the left arm reaches out, grabs a huge wrap of poplar like this, and then pulls it back, and light hits the whole thing, opens up that little spot in the canopy. And that arm, right where you think it would stop for a person, it just kept on going. Like,
Oh, wow.
That was ridiculously long. And that's the other thing, all black. There is no color shift anywhere that I can see on this thing. Anywhere. It's all black in the dark, and in the sun, it had a slight reddish brown cinnamon tinge to it. And at this point, my brain is super confused. And so I just stand there. And eventually it cuts through that gap. We'll just say this is the wide gap where I saw the arm reach out, and it steps through, and it walks through, and it weaves back and forth, and then it finally steps out into the edge of a clearing. And this is a large field breakaway at this point. I'm standing on the field breakaway, right way back here. I'm looking this direction, and then it's down here, and here's the field all this way, and then here's all the poplar coming up on this side, and there's an old ATV route. That's how I'm walking toward my neighbor, is on this old ATV route. Well, it comes out and steps full on into the sun, about 120 feet away. And I can recognize that this is not a human being. It comes out and it stands like this. It stands right at the edge of the poplar and the ATV trail, looking down at the ATV trail, looking out and across the field, looking down at the ATV trail, out and across the field. It's like starting to scan like this. And eventually it kind of double takes. It kind of turns at me and goes,
Oh, wow.
and it just freezes, just like this, in this position, like perfectly. And its face is real stoic. It doesn't really have a whole lot of expression at first, but you understand, I'm seeing gray, black, mottled skin, deep facial creases running down, wide mouth, fluted nose, wide flared nostrils, heavy brow ridge, hair crowding right down up onto the cheeks, under here, very Native American like mouth, very wide, pursed, thin, wise, stoic look on its face. And it's just looking at me like this. And then eventually you can see the face is kind of going a little bit slack, but then it eventually goes, like it scrunched its whole face up. The brow ridge came knurling down with all the wrinkles. You could see the cheek seized, the mouth seized up, everything. The whole face changed shape. Like all this muscle that we don't have is moving and doing things. And it like when you see that guy in the grocery store that sees a 10-year-old do something he's not supposed to do, and everyone's ignoring it, including his mom, and the old man's like, very irritated, like, dang it, I don't like that. That's kind of the whole vibe. And it eventually seized up its face, and I see it exhale like that, drop its chest, and I could see the triceps flex, the top of the delts, and when I saw it tighten up, I could see the entire abdomen contract and tighten up, the muscles, like, because it flexed. When it exhaled, it flexed, and the arm, all the muscles in the forearm were visible. And it was, this is what you could really, what's cool is you could see it like this, and when it did that, it would flex up and tighten and drop its head, and eventually look back, and then eventually just got ticked. And it just, the reason it was holding this arm up is it had a dead fawn on its arm, and the legs were hanging down over the arms like this, over that arm, and it had all the hide rolled up like a sleeping bag on the back, right up to the head, and the head's hanging off the side, and it just was holding its wrist cupped like that, pinning it, all that extra material. You could see all the meat was gone, all the tissue was gone. The only thing that was left was up at the neck and the shoulders and front legs. And so it just got ticked. And it was like, I'm not sure if it was like, here, you can have this, I got caught, I'm out of here, or I don't want to carry this when I'm running away, so screw it. But it threw it on the ground, turned and did a big U-turn. It didn't go back directly the way that it came initially. because it could have. That would have been totally an easier path for it to get out, where it already had bushwhacked through. But it chose to do a U-turn out about 30 feet and cut back into this willow. It hit this brushy willow, and when it hit the willow, it was pissed. At this point, it was royally pissed off. It kind of went from the I'm relaxed to I'm freaked out and I got to get out of here to like, screw this guy. And it was grabbing the willow. It was moving in, crowding the willow and grabbing it, handfuls of it, pulling it up and then throwing it, like full on just whipping an entire willow up into the air, going spiraling off into the timber and out into the edge of the field. And I saw at least 3 or 4 of these wads go flying, and then it just parted, cut through. Apparently it bulldozed the edge of that tree line on that side, and then cut in and hooked up to the power line route and got out of there. And yeah, that was my introduction to this. Obviously I'm standing there, I'm terrified. I still remember like just standing there, just being like, if I run, is it gonna follow me? And if I don't run, is it gonna come back?
Wow.
And your brain is going through this terrible split in reality at the same time. Like, I saw something that I'm not supposed to see. Am I crazy? What is happening? Is it gonna come back? If I don't leave, is it gonna, what's happening?
Wow.
Just total life remodel at that point. Everything turned upside down that day.
Yeah.
Stories that were supposed to just stay stories became reality.
Absolutely.
That's wild.
And here you are, almost 17 years later.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like I was telling Abe this before the show, that whole experience, you go through this kind of stuff, it changes you.
Oh, 100%.
It pulls you for the rest of your life. You're like, you could threaten to quit this. You could break away. You could be like, I'm done with this. I ain't found nothing. No, there's always going to be, when you've seen the kind of things that we've seen, you can't put it down.
Yeah.
There's no stepping away from this.
Right.
I don't lay awake at night wondering, man, am I wasting all my time? Do they exist? Is this really something? No. That's not a concern. I know.
They exist. So
yeah, that's why I laugh when I get people come up to me. I've been hunting 54 years. I ain't seen nothing. I'm like, you haven't seen a wolverine. You've barely seen a mountain goat, and you've never found a dead cougar. So I'm not going to listen to like, you should know because you've been around for 52 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
oh my gosh,
a few years, and I've been out there. And I have seen it, so you can tell me that I'm wrong all you want. I'm just going to laugh all day.
Oh, man.
I love the way you put that. Yeah. Yeah. So you got out of there, and obviously you did not go look at the deer. Did you ever go back there? Oh, okay.
Well, yes, actually. So immediately, this is it's funny. Almost more than the sighting was the core memory of what happened, that registered. Almost as much as the sighting and what I remember of the way it looked, the face, the chalky spots on like the elbow and the kneecaps, like that were all dry and cracked and white colored, like things like that. What I remember more is getting to the house, flying up the steps, grabbing the storm door handle, pulling so hard I broke the handle clean off the storm door. And my dad comes flying out of the living room, yelling and screaming, and being like, "You're gonna pay for that door?" Like, that kind of thing. And it's funny. My dad was the kind of guy of like, he told you to wash the dishes, you didn't wait. You got up, you grabbed the dish rag, you were washing the dishes like that right now. And it's funny, in that moment, with all the rage my dad had compared to what I just experienced, it was like numb. It was like this dull, tingling sound. And I'll never forget. I go down the hallway, and he's kind of starting to yell and come out the living room. And I run down the hallway, and I just grab my rifle, and I throw it in the big plastic case. I throw down the plastic case. I pop it open. At this point, I can hear my mom coming in behind the door saying, "What is going on?" freaking out. And then I hear my dad yelling behind her, he just broke the storm door. I'm like, I don't know what he thinks he's doing. If who's going to pay for this or something like that. And my cousin comes in behind my mom with my dad, and I can just hear their voices over top, just the yelling and the sound. And all I really remember visually, besides all the yakking, is I'm on the floor with my rifle, and I'm trying to load the magazine to my rifle. And I'm shaking so bad, I can't even get the rounds in the magazine. I'm just like, they're just flipping out, and I can't seat it properly. And that's all of a sudden, it's funny because they're yelling at each other, and they don't realize I have my rifle on the bed and on the edge of the floor until for like a second. And then they go, wait, Nathan, why do you have the gun? What are you doing? And I'm loading that thing because I'm legit freaked out that this thing could come by here or be back or whatever. And then I realized that I can hear my dad saying that the whole, like, whatever it was, it better be a good reason. And I'm just thinking, like, I can't tell them what I just experienced. No one is going to believe me. But I go against my own judgment there, and I just blurted out to my mom, I'm like, I saw what you would only call a Sasquatch as I'm loading the rifle and just trying to get out to look out the door, and we're walking back down the hallway. At this point, I just blurt out all this, and my cousin immediately goes, oh my goodness, this is such trash, this is dumb, you didn't see anything, this is just for attention. Meanwhile, I'm like blanket sheet white, dripping in sweat, I'm cut up, bleeding everywhere because I had to bulldoze through Blackberry to get home, cut through all the timber. And then my mom says, okay, well, can you take us out to where it was? And I have the rifle, and my cousin, I think, had a firearm at the time. And I said, we can go back, but I'm not going back after you're dark. And I will show you where this happened. But at this point, I'm mad because no one believes me. And I have a gun. And I'm confident with the firearm. I know how to. I'm a pretty decent shot. And we go back, and we get all the way out there. Man, it was a tense walk. I'm getting called a liar and being made fun of, and hounded and quizzed. My dad's upset because of the door still. And then this obviously happened, and I am just out of my own, like, I'm numb. I went through this roller coaster. I went from completely normal day to what the hell to complete adrenaline crash to then getting totally spiked up again because I'm being discredited by my own family. And then I'm feeling like I need to prove it to them. And I take them back out there, and then my anxiety's going back up again because I'm in this situation. I'm a teenager with a firearm and a case to plead. And I'm just hoping that there's something there to back up my story. And we get out there, and the fawn was still there. That's how we got a good look at later, like a real good look at what was still on it and not. Yeah, it was 303 British was their caliber. It's a pretty powerful round. It could have taken something in this situation, but yeah, so I had a little bit of confidence there, but I was very mad. And we're there, and we're looking at the dead fawn, and the head is completely caved in, like the top of the skull. Because you know how fawns, like when does will drop their fawns, they'll lay in the grass and act like, you know, you don't see me, and they just stay there and let you practically walk up to them. What I think was this thing did is I think it was like it just went around during when the fawns were being dropped and stuff, and it took advantage of the fact that they just hunker down, and this thing was picking up old rocks from the rock piles from all the farmers' plow lines, and it was just taking out fawns and eating easy meals. That's what I think it was doing. Because the top of the head was perfectly convex, caved in, curvature, with one razor jagged split.
Whoa.
All the meat was peeled off except for the front legs and neck. And yeah. And then my cousin saying, okay, well, this doesn't prove anything. He went over to the willows where I told him it was. And right before where it had exited to look at the ATV track and go back to the willows, he found 2 or 3 tracks. Two of them
Vindication.
were really
Nice.
good.
Wow.
Two of them were really good with toes, big toe, everything. One of them had mid-tarsal flexion. So
wow. So
Yeah.
you were familiar with Sasquatch prior to actually seeing one because you were able to basically say I saw
I
Sasquatch.
later recognized it because, when you see it in the track with the gap, you're like, well, that looks kind of goofy, because how that's very commonly the statement is like, oh, that's not a Bigfoot track, it's double step bear, right? Because of the separation in the middle. Well, later, looking back on those tracks, we could tell like, oh, okay, well, that feature is noted Sasquatch tracks. So that's for sure not bear tracks. There was a distinct hallux, descending digit drop line. It had a round heel bucketed, and then there was that goofy bulge of dirt in the middle of the print. And there was no toes or claws there, just that big bulge. Because that was a point of discussion was like, well, how do we know this isn't where a bear walked through twice?
Right.
That was with the initial track find, that was the case. But after we got to the second and third track, it became evident. But it would later dawn on me that like, oh, that was mid-tarsal flexion, that big goofy hump in the middle.
Yeah,
So,
it helps to have the knowledge you have now because you can look back and kind of dissect your own experience and see these comparisons.
I also have a near photographic memory. And so
nice.
like I things crystallized. So later when I would see stuff, I'd be like, that is what I saw right there.
Yeah.
That's distinctly different than X, Y, or Z. So
with a memory like yours, have you ever worked with a sketch artist?
Oh, good.
I've not worked with a sketch artist, but I do a little drawing myself, and I actually have a drawing on here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, give me just a second and I'll pull it up for you. But yeah. I do draw, and I'm not half bad. I'm not great, but I'm not bad. So just let me.
I paint by numbers. No.
How was that? You paint by numbers.
Sometimes he goes out of lines.
Goes out of the lines. Those are like Bob Ross says, they're happy little accidents.
My crayons are short and dull and stubby. Oh.
Did you eat them all, or? Let me see here. I think I got it on here.
It's when you use the backside of the crown, Abe.
Yeah. Yep.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm very interested to see this because, nobody can recall what you saw better than yourself. So I think you being able to draw would probably give a better rendition than you trying to describe it to somebody else, because I've done that and it was very difficult to get them to draw out what I remembered. And
yeah, I know.
Never get it quite right.
Yeah, I know I have it on here. I just need to pull up the right photo for the camera.
Right.
I could do it if I photograph the screen. Okay, so here's the sketch I did when I was 18 years old. If I can get it up there.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Wow.
That's very nice.
You captured the muscles quite well. Holy smokes.
Wow. That's awesome. And you drew that when you were 17?
When I was 18.
18. Wow.
Yeah, there you go. That's probably the best angle. So yeah, I drew that. And then I took it and I ran it. I got with an AI to try to get it as accurate as possible. And this is what I got with the AI interpretation.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Very good. Very good. The musculature, the hair pattern flowing.
Wow.
All of it is pretty good. The coloration's off, but overall, the shape, even the nose, the face, all the features, it's very similar. Very lean. The individual I saw was about 6'3", very lean.
I was going to ask you, because of the shape of the head, for me, it would indicate possible juvenilism, a young one going on.
Well, yeah, 6'3". I don't think that's quite adult, at least not for our region. Doesn't seem to be quite adult. It seems to be like 16 and still 2 growth spurts away from being football material. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
I'd be very curious to see if you could draw the facial features, because I know there's some pretty unique and distinct differences between, different facial features.
Yeah. I have an image that I had made previously of the facial features. So give me just a second and I will show you that too.
Take your time, and I say based on the size of the head, what I mean by that, folks, is that how the head is more rounder than it is than it is conical. It seems like the more adults, such as a silverback, has a more conical head due to the cranial and or sagittal crest, whatever you want to call it, compared to when the younger ones have more of a rounder shape one.
There is definitely something to that. Nearly males of all mammal species, the older they get, the more cresting you'll see on the skull. You'll even see it on like house cats. Like there's a level of ridge growth that is in larger individuals of any mammalian species, that cresting or edging to the skull where the support muscles have to support that much bigger of a thing, a 5-gallon bucket sized head. There's got to be more attachment point higher up.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. More attachment points up to that come down and also hold the mandible, lower mandible.
Yeah, I think it has more to do with age than like variations.
Well, I think it's a play of both. I think you can have age and then you can have genetic selection for that feature in that area, for that variation. For instance, you can see almost blonde black bear in New Mexico and in Arizona, and then you can go all the way up to BC and they're just giant fat and they have very narrow noses, but they're huge and they're jet black and only black. And then you can go to Utah and they have wider ears, wider faces, thicker noses, and they're mostly cinnamon. You just can get some, like, look at humans. The human variation is wild. Even bonobos. Look at bonobos. You can see a male at 30 just look totally jet black, not bald at all, totally normal. Thick hair, muscly, and they can have another 30-year-old who's a male who's all willowy and no head development. He's almost got like a flattened pancake head. He's mostly bald. He's got mottled skin with white patches. He's got goofy facial hair. And then even different proportion finger ratio, like the thickness of the fingers. You see the same thing. You can see radical change in speciation in large mammals. You can. It's pretty easy to see over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think genetics plays the main part in the different variations that people see, and potentially facial features as well.
And add a little inbreeding to that, where you have certain features reinforced or distorted due to pockets of inbreeding or something like that, and you can have your Sasquatches in one location might have a very drastically different or disgruntled appearance compared to their northwestern cousins or something like that. That's very much.
It's so interesting that you made that narrative, because I had never thought about that, because surely there is inbreeding that does distort features and changes things up. So I found that's super interesting. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, it's you can see it in human populations plain as day too, unfortunately. I found that photo, by the way. Yes. So
wow, very human-like.
Yes, try to get it less glare somehow. I don't know.
Boy, you weren't kidding when you said very native looking.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. But that's that his name is Doug. And Doug is he's our mascot for the Study Sasquatch YouTube channel.
Oh my gosh.
I thought I recognized that. Yeah.
Is Doug from Michigan?
No.
That's funny.
He's not inbred enough. Like
I'm curious, was your sighting in 2009, did that take place in Michigan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then my
Wow.
sighting in 2015 was out here in Washington, and that's when I threw my hands up in the air and I said, okay, you guys have way more Sasquatches out here than Michigan. I'm just going to pack up my whole life and move out here. So,
Wow.
Oh man.
Yeah, I have heard a lot of sightings coming out of Washington.
Oh yeah.
There is not another state in the United States that compares. And I don't care what anybody says. I've looked at every state from Oklahoma all the way to Maine, tip of Florida, all the way over to Southern California, and all the way up to the edge of BC. Until you cross the Canadian border, there is not a state that produces and yields more raw habitat, resource, capability and access, and probably raw population per 20 square miles. There's
Wow.
probably not another place nearly even close. If you want to count Alaska because it's U.S. territory and it's northward, sure, Southeast Alaska maybe has a higher density. But honestly, it's a toss-up between Southeast Alaska, Washington, and BC, Vancouver Island. It really is. There's nowhere, in my opinion, looking at the data that I've looked at, and I've stared at thousands of data points, I've read thousands of reports, there's nowhere like this area, period.
Wow. Wow.
Just,
I'll have to get out there
and I've
someday.
looked at Minnesota and Ohio and Michigan. I've looked at all of them. So,
I agree with you. I mean, especially with Expedition Bigfoot when their season 6 was in Washington, and they're right on the coast where the mainland and the west coast and the mainland, and you got that divide right there, right at the Y. That's kind of right where they were based at. And Russ captured something on camera, so it's really really cool. I can't believe that time is flying by. We're like 2 hours from the middle of the hour, and there's so much more to cover. I mean, we got audio, you got pictures to go over and stuff like that.
I can cruise through thermal real quick, and then we can move to whatever you guys want.
Are you on a time crunch tonight, or is anybody on a time crunch tonight?
I'd love to hear about his thermal research for sure.
Okay. Let's go on. I mean, if that's okay with you, Nathan, if you're not on a time crunch, if you can hang out for another half hour or so. Okay.
I am totally good. So I'll just cover thermal imaging. So we use handheld thermal imagers like this one. This is a Pulsar Axient 2.
Okay.
88 by 266 resolution, I believe.
Takes videos and pictures.
Yep.
That is onboard 8 gigabytes, so 5.4 hours, I think, of footage is allocated to that. It's got a narrow field of view on it, but so we try to get ones with a wider field of view, 1-to-1 magnification, so that way when you have your dominant eye open at night and you're using that to kind of navigate, right? Mm-hmm. And the other one is looking through the imager that you get your brain, if you're specialized enough and you know how to do this. Some people don't have their brain has a trouble blending the images, making it usable. But if you get a 1-to-1 ratio in your magnification, you can brain can take, okay, the night eye is seeing this tree, this obstacle, the path, and blend it with the thermal enough to kind of like operate and stay on a subject. So that's important with handheld use, and selecting a unit. Wider field of view is better, in my opinion, unless you're looking across a massive canyon. If you're just camped out doing that, then narrower and longer magnification is better. And then there's our true systems, which are these large ammo can housed, bear proof, EMF proof, ultrasonic dampening thermal imagers that can be deployed for up to a month in remote areas. Wow. And they have a trigger distance of over 300 yards on a heated object.
That's awesome.
That's some distance right there. Wow.
Yeah, well over 300 yards. If a subject the size of a possum walks out, it's on video. It's recorded.
Wow.
And when I say trigger speed, the trigger speed on this is 0.001 seconds.
Wow.
Jeez. That's like almost a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Oh, it's as fast as the blink of an eye. Yep.
Wow. Where did you obtain something like that? I guess online? We built it. Wow.
So we're getting ready to make these available to the public. So researchers will be able to contact us and order them.
I'd love to get my hands on one.
Yeah, we're working to make it a reality here in the upcoming few months. We filed for our patents, and we're in process on all of that, and we're just trying to get the business aspect established well enough that we can start getting them out to people. But we currently have a good number of them out in the field. We started out with like 6, moved up to 9, 11, and then up and up. And yeah, and we service them every 2 weeks to 30 days, depending on the type of unit we have deployed. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And how long did you say the battery lasts on something like that? You said 20 hours?
On the large unit that weighs about 60 pounds with the housing and everything, that one you should get about 34 to 36 days on that unit.
Wow.
So you'd carry in a battery, obviously, to your location, and you would put it on an external frame pack and carry the battery in, put that battery in, take the other one out, put it on the frame, pack it out. But you could just rotate batteries every month, and you would have an autonomous system running all the time on thermal that can pick up anything.
That's amazing. I think these long duration devices are an excellent thing to use out in the field because of a couple reasons. Number one, you're not traipsing through and disturbing their normal routine. And number two is I think it gives time for these devices to kind of lose their human scent, because when we're carrying and loading this stuff in, we're rubbing our scent all over it. And I do think that maybe they're able to pick up on that and stay away from those areas. Maybe not something like that that's so far, has such a far reach.
As far as scent goes, I would say they obviously don't have a snout, right? They don't have a long snout where there is all this room for all this soft sensory tissue, like what you see in a deer, a bloodhound, even some long-faced rodents that have high perception in that sense, or even cats. They don't have that long, densely packed snout full of soft, wet tissue, full of nerve endings for smell. At least we don't see that. It could be totally wrong. They could have this ultra-dense sensory perception, but it would be very unique among primates to have that level of perception. I would wager that their sense of smell is like probably 2.5 times better than humans. So like if you walk past a patch of skunk cabbage at 35 yards and you got a tiny whiff of it, they could probably pick it up like almost like 80 yards away. They'd easily pick that up. That would be my guess. And also we see hunters not having encounters dependent on the wind direction. So that's another thing that makes me believe that they probably aren't scent dependent, if you will, like a deer or a bear or a bloodhound. You get times where a hunter said, the wind was on my back. I walked in, it came down a hill, over the ledge. I sat down. I looked up. This thing was just picking huckleberries right there. And the wind was pushing right at him. And you would think it would pick up on him. And it didn't. It just got up, was eating, and it eventually kind of like visually picked up on him and just locked on him and then got sketched out and left after like you watched it for 15 minutes. So I don't know. They probably can smell us to a degree.
I think you bring up a great point, because I'd never really thought about that, the fact that they do not have long snouts. And I just these things have got to have a higher perception and this and that. So to me it just made more sense that they had better scent capabilities. But it makes sense that you're comparing that to that long snout that they don't have. Probably don't have all those extra sensory capabilities as far as scent goes. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
Well, and it wouldn't be such a big deal if it would have to be extremely novel within the primate category. Because if you look at a scale of scent capability from gibbon and lemur all the way to us, there's not that graph doesn't change a whole lot. So to expect that something obviously occupying similar niche as us and other primates, not having the visual hue that it would be any different, it just seems kind of unlikely. But what we do see them key in the most on like according to many reports, sound. The tiniest stick break, the hum of an engine has their head up on a swivel, they're looking around, you know, just the tiniest change in sound, and they are locked in, either frozen, like totally unmoving, or they are up and out. So the sound is definitely a big thing for them. I would wager that it is. Sound is a huge deal.
Wow. Yeah, you'll have to let me know when you get your those devices you were just talking about up to the public, because I would be very interested in checking them out and obtaining one at some point. Very, very cool device.
Yeah, they're called TRUs, thermal recording units. And they are hopefully the next step, not only in Bigfoot stuff, but in wildlife research. You can cover 20 times the area that a single trail camera can cover with this. And you're not really dependent on, you're not introducing the stimuli of IR. You have an EMF blocking shield. You have total passive system that has no way that it can emit anything to the Sasquatch. There is it's not like a trail camera that the PIR sensor triggers when a hot animal walks in front of it, and then it shoots out infrared light, which bounces off the animal and goes into the lens, right, to make a pretty picture of it. There is none of that play going on. It is completely passive. It is just picking up energy that already exists in the form of thermal and transporting it silently, no energy fingerprints in the environment. This thing, we've tested it with an EMF meter. It puts off the same amount of EMF that a rotting stump does.
Wow.
It's just almost nothing.
Wow.
So,
that is so cool.
We covered the bases
very
on it.
Cool. Oh, yeah. Great piece of equipment. And like you said, it's going to be widely usable by multiple facets, multiple fields. So I think you guys are really onto something with that. So congratulations with that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Right on.
So 10 years in development. 10 years in development.
Wow.
Right around the time of the conference, actually, when I went to the conference, I came up with the first blueprint idea of this going into action. But I was waiting for the technology to catch up with my idea.
Wow.
So, here we are.
Kudos, bro. So you have some TRUs thermal that you can share with us.
Yeah, I didn't send you any clips from them, but I can defer
pictures.
People. Oh yeah, there's pictures from it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay. Go ahead and you can put those up at any point. Yeah, those will demonstrate the capability, the quality of the imagers themselves, and stuff. So
I wasn't ready. Wait, amazing. Keep talking.
So yeah, so they can take pictures and also record. Is it?
Yeah. So it can take photos, but I tell everyone, don't do photo if you can do video. Just do video. Always. Yeah. No one wants a single frame of part of a Sasquatch, maybe a leg, and then the edge of its back. If an SD card is $37 more to get the higher grade and run video, just run the dang video. Don't fart around with the pictures. Just go for video. Video tells you way more information. So
100%, because then you have a beginning and an end rather than just one still shot.
And context, like you understand where it moved from to where it moved to, and maybe it's intent, maybe why, maybe it's urgency, maybe sound that it was making. There is a whole host of information that you just are not going to have without the video. So I tell everyone, in a day and age where a 64 gigabyte card is $22, just go with the extra gigabytes of data.
Yeah,
just do it.
Nobody look at my stuff.
Cover your eyes.
Cover your eyes. Wait, this isn't it. Wait, where'd the photos go? Hold on, we're gonna remove this for a second. I closed it out. Okay, proceed. Sorry. Oh, there it is.
Oh yeah, the higher the gigabyte. I mean, so what are you finding gigabyte wise for a card that corresponds with the battery life of them?
Typically a 2-week deployment, we will have, it'll fill up about 62 gigabytes of data. It's pretty common.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty common, 2 weeks. So 4 weeks would be about, you'd probably get about 128 gigabyte card full for a month.
So we were able to see this now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
So that's a photograph of the rough area we research. As you can see, I very castle and moat style.
That's beautiful.
The very difficult to access area. You'd have to go straight up. That's a one road access location. Very remote up in there. And like I said, you can only get in there from one way. You can't even get out another way. It's not like there's options to come and go up there. Everything back there knows you're coming for miles in advance.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they're there.
So
and the resources are off. Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's one of our.
Yep, that's me in the wintertime getting soaked.
Wintertime? Where's the snow? No.
yeah. Look, there's a reason I left Michigan. I left all that crap behind. But yeah, that's also from our research. That's a couple-year-old photograph. That's from Idaho.
That's beautiful.
I dabble in photography a little bit. That's another thing I like to do is take pictures and video.
So these are not from the Trues unit then?
Yeah, no. Those are taken from my Sony a6300. I miss that. I still cry over that camera sometimes.
Oh, man. Beautiful pictures. Now, did you send audio?
Yes. So that is 2 growl yellers short. So I advise everyone, obviously, if you're listening to audio, try to listen with headphones. This will not be too terribly difficult without headphones. We can loop it like twice and you can get a good feel for it. But it seems to be 2 individuals talking / yelling at each other. One is like complaining or something, it sounds like, and the other one is whining. So whenever you're ready.
All right. Wow. That was off at a distance.
Yeah, so that's a somewhat distant recording. It sounds like 2 animals. The initial sound, like you hear it and you're kind of like, oh, could that be like a very big dog? Like, boo, roo, roo, right? Like you hear that. But then you hear the second part. And where this is, there's none of that. Also, if you look at it on a spectrogram, it's not falling within the range that dogs typically fall in for the bass of their voice. And that was recorded in the middle of the night, if I'm not mistaken, up in our research area, miles and miles away from any residents or where dogs are. There was no known passage of stuff going through the area, people, vehicles, nothing.
So is that recorded where kind of we were seeing those pictures?
Yep.
Oh, very remote. Very, very remote. Wow.
Yeah. Some of the pictures. There was a couple from Idaho. Those were not associated, but where the big hill and the rain was, it was up way up in there.
Wow. That's amazing.
And there's more audio to kind of go with it.
Wow. So you have that audio on your YouTube then?
Yeah.
Nice.
And there's one file in there I really know your audience will want to hear. It's the August one. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
Right.
So it will be called the August vocal original, just that one.
Okay. August vocal original. Okay. Let me pull it back up here.
I'm not really hearing it.
Yeah, I'm not either. Let me try, because there's two here. There's August 2020.
Here, hold
August.
on 1 second. Let me try. Can I try playing it?
Yeah, let me. So you can actually share your screen just like I'm doing.
Yeah. Okay. So let me see here. All right.
Should be able to anyway.
Okay, I have it now.
And if you want,
can I just play it as it is? Will you guys be able to hear it?
maybe let's give it a shot.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not hearing it. You can shoot it over to. Actually, let me try this. Let me just download it and play it from there.
Yeah, perfect. That'd be ideal.
Wondering if maybe that, because I can hear something. Sounds like distant talking.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it wasn't playing, but
let's try that. Same thing.
Okay. Well,
very,
I guess it's weird because the other one played. That was strange.
Yeah.
Well, people can check it out on our channel. It's on our Sasquatch Plateau video. You could try some of the other clips if you want to.
Yeah.
So I don't know if those will play or not.
Let's try the other August one.
Yeah, okay.
I got it there. Wow.
Yeah.
That was like singing.
Yeah, we actually call him the singer. So
wow.
Yeah. And so, he's come around a lot.
Is that two of them there?
No, it's one from what we can gather. At least I'm convinced it's one. And I think if you pop over to, there's another recording that has also that somewhat similar, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think the thrash and groan one was pretty. We think this is probably him as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so you hear something drags through the brush and goes like very breathy, almost gorilla-like in a few ways. So we think that's all the same individual making.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, he's always around, and we have a lot more examples. This is just what I was able to pull real quick. I had some issues with my hard drive earlier today. It said there was a scanning issue and it wouldn't let me into it, and it finally let me into it. So I just grabbed a bunch of files last minute. I fought with it last night when I was supposed to get you more files, but I struggled with it. So
no worries, I know what that's like.
Yeah.
So where you're getting these vocalizations from, are they within the same area of the OP's study sites?
No, not the same area. Different area.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, the Olympic project is their own entity. We have crossover individuals,
Right.
right?
Yep.
We have people that dabble across
Yep.
several different groups because we're all trying to learn, right, together. So we kind of
You're
work
networking.
together.
Yeah, it's networking. Yeah.
And so then they have their areas, and we occasionally visit some of their sites, and then we have our areas, and we invite them out to some of our sites, and that's kind of how it is. But we are seeing similar patterns, very similar patterns. Well, what the current working model is based on the data, what we know of this one area where we're working is these things seem to be on an evergreen cycle. They're always moving. They're always doing a path. And there can be several towns and mountain ranges in between and valleys and road pathways. But they have particular favored locations that we think that resource for a certain time of year is really important. And so that becomes like a fixture in the loop, right? And so they move this perimeter. At least we think that the males move around the perimeter, much like your husband occasionally goes out, walks the property line. All right, no one's been over here. No one's been over here, right? Like it's kind of that deal. And we think that the males patrol and then come by, pick up the mom and the kid, take them to the next resource location, drop them, keep going, come back around, and that just repeats. And it keeps moving around. So it's this cycle where we feel that the males are doing this route to survey, go, okay, I'm about a week and a half away from where I ditched them to hang out, the baby and mom or the harem or whatever. And there's going to be resources in 3 weeks up here. So I'm going to go all the way back around. I'm going to pick them up and bring them to this next resource. And then with that rotation constantly happening, it would be called a nomadic rotation. He just moves them to where the resources are. And then over his entire life, he has an idea with, okay, it's been dry. So we know resources are going to be in this area early. These ones are going to be in late. Water's going to be scarce. So I got to think about that. She's going to be pregnant at this time. So that means she's going to need those omega oils. Better get down near the smoke huts on the reservation and get close to the salmon where I can get those omega oils and fatty acids and walnuts and things like that. Like the males seem to be driving the train of where things are going and what's important when and why. And then the females and the offspring just get dumped along the way at the right location. And so we see this cycle. That's why you get road crossings in the same 2-mile stretch every year, same time of year. You get them in the same bog forest in the end of August, every year. Doing the same things. You look decade after decade after decade, and you get clusters with 3-month blocks where they come in at that time. And we're doing the pattern work to try to figure that out.
You muted yourself, sweetie.
I think you're muted.
Yeah, I think you guys doing that pattern work is gonna really add a lot of quality to the research, because I think that's something that a lot of people, when they go out and they research, they're lacking, is to watch the patterns and to watch it for many years to kind of draw those conclusions. We do have an interesting question. It's kind of a theory I've never heard. So it says, do you believe in the theory that when the sound is further away, it's closer? When it's closer, it's further away? That's from Ezra.
I wouldn't say I believe that. I definitely could see, I've heard vocals where they will take a type of vocal that you would expect them to project really loud and subdue it really low. Like I've heard moan howls that were not just, oh, I've heard them like, oh, like that volume, that close, So it's funny because your brain can build a filter of like this type of sound is far away and powerful, but then you hear it real close and quiet down below the hill below your camp, and your brain is confused because you're like, wait, that sounds really close, but it's something that's usually far away. I think that could be part of that.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think there's misdirection. I think that happens a lot where you have more than one individual around. And I think that you can be getting close to one and one kind of backed off up the hill, light you up to turn your attention back around. I believe that occurs because the moment you whirl around to look at that, the one behind you bolts and you're like, what the heck? Seen that a time or two.
Yeah. So another question by Ezra. So do you think they changed their tone to try to lure you closer? Or my secondary question, maybe to scare you off?
I've seen, I can answer yes, I think, to both of those. We've had them totally shift their tone to sound more like us. When, like, you know how the Sierra sounds, there's all the very garbled, angry, and then later as the years go by and they return to the camp up there in the Sierras, the sounds are almost like mocking and mimicry, slowed down, almost like a pattern flow. Like, I'm trying to communicate with you. Before I hated you, but now I'm trying to communicate with you for some reason or another. And I think that they definitely do stuff to try to draw attention to themselves, like whether they're mocking you. I've heard people's name that no one called the name yelled out. My buddy Kirk Brandenburg, who I work closely with in this project, he helped me develop the True Systems. He was on an expedition where everyone said, "Good night, Kirk. Good night. Have a good night. Yeah, good night. Good night, Kirk. We'll see you in the morning." And from up on the hill, "Good night. Good night. Good night."
Whoa.
Yeah. And everybody went. And Kirk was like, "Okay, I'm not going to my tent. I'm going to stay by the fire." And then later that night, people did end up having a tent up that direction and had to go up that hill. And when they got in their tent, something around their tent all night was walking around, breaking limbs and knocking and stuff. Yeah. And this is in the same area where we've had all this other stuff happen.
You just mentioned knocking. Do you think that they do use a tool, piece of wood, or a rock to hit a tree, or do you think it's something?
I know for, and I hate to use the word fact in this, but I have heard them hit wood and it crack and break. So with a piece of wood, I've heard that. I've also heard it sound an awful lot like that, like cupped, like cuppy hands or on the chest. I've heard stuff like that. And some people say mouth pops like the, I can't do it. I know other people do, but Ellis can do it pretty well. But yeah, I think they use a variety of ways to make these percussives.
Yeah.
We've got audio of just like the chest slap.
I heard that in Iowa.
Yeah, it sounds like two coconuts.
Yeah,
like, just like that. Just like, what the heck? Yeah, and we've got some recordings of that. Chris Spencer's gotten them, I think, in the Nest site and a couple other spots. And yeah, so there's occasions like that, and then there's the times where they're full on. You hear wham, home run, and then you hear the wood crack a little bit. Then you hear them hit the tree again, and then it goes crack, bang, spin, slash, brush.
Right.
Wow. I've heard that before, where the piece of wood breaks off and goes dishing through the woods and just taking debris with it.
Wow.
Yes, goosebumps. That confirms so many things on so many different levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have one more question, and we'll just throw out this last question because I saw your wife in the background. She looks like she's ready to move around the house. Last question. Why do you think they even make loud sounds in the first place? Kind of second to the same question. Do you think they're bringing others closer to them?
I think there's three different reasons. I'm pretty solid. There's at least three different reasons. There's one, communication aspect among the group to inform, okay, humans, let's get out of here, or let's freak them out, pick a lane, cross communication. And then there's the case where we're going to make sounds to confuse and scare the humans, try to push them out, right? Like a direct, like, I don't like you, you should be scared of me, you should leave type of situation. And then there's the case where they're making sounds because they're stressed. They're not intending to give away the game, but they're so stressed out that it's almost a reactivity. It's an impulsive behavior. Like when you see the chimp get so irritated that it's hiding and looking at the other chimps, but it starts going, ooh, ooh, ooh. It gets all worked itself up, and now every other chimp in the area that was after him knows right where he's at. I think there's a level of that at play potentially as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So,
Nathan, we covered just the tip of the iceberg with you. I've got so many more questions, but I personally, I'd love to have you come back sometime, bro.
100%. 100%. The audio was great. I love the singing one. That was amazing.
And we got a lot more like that on our channel. That was just stuff I could last minute pull. I've also I think I sent you guys some of the track photos that we found over the years. We found some really
that's right, the footprints.
Wow.
We got
so you got
really
videos of those?
Yeah, they're still. I got some still images of those, and we have some videos on our channel of some of the trackways.
Awesome.
Again, that's Study Sasquatch YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you take sighting reports even outside of Washington for your fellow BFRO researchers?
I tell everyone, submit to the BFRO within your state. Try to talk to a level-headed investigator, and work with your local chapters. I take reports predominantly in Washington. That being said, I know people in other states, other investigators, and if you need to contact somebody you feel credible or worth connecting with, I can get you in touch with some of the right folks. But I stick to Washington because I have my hands in so many things and my plate is so full. I can't dabble in everywhere all the time. I've done work in Oregon, California, New Mexico, Michigan, Ohio, Idaho. I've been all over.
Awesome. So where can people send the reports to you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah. We have an email in our About section on Study Sasquatch, the Study Sasquatch YouTube channel. People can go there. We also can be reached on our Facebook page, which is Study Sasquatch on Facebook. And they can reach out to there and email, messenger, whatever works for you. And if someone has a situation where these things are around private property, don't worry, your information is private. We don't disclose anyone's situation, their name, their location, none of that. It's just we're simply trying to learn and document them as best we can with footage, and that's our goal.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like Abe said, we would love to have you back on again. And I do apologize for the kind of weird setup we had starting off, but I was really excited to get to be a part of it the last hour and a half. So, so make sure, click the link in the description below this video and check out Study Sasquatch on YouTube. And it's also available on Facebook.
Thank you.
We'll get you back on in a little while, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Squatch on, everybody.